During a family road trip, we were involved in a serious car crash. I summoned all my energy to drag my mother, father, and brother out from beneath the vehicle. However, their focus was solely on rescuing my sister, who had sustained a fractured leg. They hurried to the hospital, leaving me stranded alone on the mountain road. They believed I was fortunate, assuming my injuries were minor, overlooking my increasingly pallid complexion and cyanotic lips. Additionally, they disregarded the car's oil leak. "What did you say? Isabel passed away," someone remarked. At the city's top hospital's VIP ward, each person displayed different reactions. My biological mother remained by my bedside, her eyes wide with disbelief, seemingly unable to accept the police officer's statement. "Are you serious, Caleb?" My father, who had always resented me, stared with wide eyes. For the first time, I noticed a hint of panic in his gaze. Maybe there's been a mistake, I thought. When we descended the mountain the previous day, she appeared unharmed. I hovered in the air, observing my astonished older brother with a cold, sarcastic smile. I realized that they were clinging stubbornly to their own judgments, never considering alternative perspectives. 3 days earlier, my sister Julia had expressed envy over her classmates' family outings. My usually averse mother proposed a camping trip and a picnic at a nearby mountain summit. With my father absent, the four of us set out in 2 cars. As we approached the mountainside and were about to stop for a break, the car lost control, crashing into the adjacent rocky barrier. My mother and brother, seated up front, were instantly unconscious. I felt a severe blow to my chest and back, but the pain swiftly subsided, and my mind became sharply focused. I exited the mangled vehicle, surveying the distorted car and shattered windshield with no time to hesitate. My sole thought was to rescue my trapped and injured family from the smoking, potentially explosive car. Fortunately, the airbags had cushioned my mother and brother Caleb, resulting in only minor injuries and unconsciousness. I managed to pull them out. As Caleb regained consciousness, his first action was to seize my collar, urgently asking, "Where's Julia?" I glanced at Julia, who was still trapped inside, and nodded. The next moment, he forcefully shoved me aside, causing me to collapse against a debris piece. Pain radiated from my back throughout my body, leaving me nearly ghostly pale and unable to rise. The agony was so intense it clouded my thoughts. Caleb shouted from the car door, "Why are you just standing there? Julia's leg is caught between the seats. Come help!" His loud voice likely stirred our mother from her brief unconsciousness. Seeing me immobile, Caleb shot our mother a disdainful look before yelling, "Mom, hurry! Julia's leg might be broken!" They both rushed to the car, disregarding their own injuries, and carefully extracted Julia, placing her gently on the ground. Julia, always delicate and vulnerable, looked up with a fragile expression. Meanwhile, no one paid attention to me, who had just saved them and was now writhing in pain on the ground. Sensing something was wrong, I felt my limbs grow colder. Weakly, I reached out, calling out multiple times until they finally noticed. "Mom, call for an ambulance quickly!" I urged. They took out their phones and dialed, but after the call, they merely checked if I was all right as a formality. When I shook my head, they returned their attention to comforting Julia, leaving a sting of bitterness in my heart. I hadn't expected gratitude. I would have preferred a few more checks on me, but their focus remained solely on Julia. The ambulance arrived swiftly, and they helped Julia inside. It was then they realized her leg was too injured to sit normally, forcing her to lie across the seats, leaving no space for me in the car. My mother glanced at me awkwardly, scanning me to confirm I wasn't hurt before apologizing. "Isabel, your sister is seriously injured. We have to take her to the hospital first, you understand, right?" I looked down, a sharp pain piercing my heart. I clenched my fists, wanting to demand why they were abandoning me once more, but then I heard Julia's voice from inside the car. "Mom, it hurts. Is she going to die?" I pleaded. "Mom, stop talking to her and get to the hospital quickly." Caleb, holding the constantly crying Julia, appeared anxious and worried. "Isabel, take a taxi to the hospital yourself." Hearing Julia's cries, our mother's face lost all traces of guilt. She slammed the car door shut and urged the driver to speed to the hospital, the car disappearing from my view just as it had years before. Yet, I was also in agony, but I was still her daughter. "Why are you abandoning me again?" My heart grew as cold as my limbs, as everyone focused on getting Julia to the hospital, instructing me to hail a cab home. They hadn't considered that I was in the suburbs, making it nearly impossible to find a cab. I had to endure the pain and trudge down the mountain step by step, each step excruciating. I kept replaying the events in my mind, unsure of how far I walked before I could no longer continue. I leaned against a tree, consciousness fading, and heard a loud explosion from midway up the mountain before losing consciousness completely. I died from a ruptured spleen. If they had called the police or an ambulance that day, using a private car instead might have saved my life. When the police bluntly revealed my cause of death and questioned them, my father nearly collapsed upon hearing the news. He rushed over, grabbed my mother by the shoulders, and yelled, "Didn't I tell you not to go? Why didn't you listen? Why did you leave the house for the mountains? Don't you know Isabel got lost before and has a trauma with the mountains? Couldn't you think of her even once?" Maybe it was too much for her, but under my father's interrogation, my mother rolled her eyes and fainted. When she regained consciousness, she insisted on going to the police station despite my father and Caleb trying to stop her. She knelt before my lifeless body, crying until she almost fainted again. I watched as a spirit, seeing her hold my cold hand and weep, saying, "Isabel, Mom, I'm sorry. I'm here to take you home." It was ironic that the one who had abandoned me was now crying and wanting to take me home. But where was my home? The home she referred to might still exist, but there was no place for me there. "Sorry, you can't take Isabel's body yet," she told the man in the white coat with tears in her eyes. "What do you mean?" she asked, looking at him. "Why can't I take my daughter's body? She died in an accident. If I sign, we should be able to bring her home." The man remained unfazed, adjusting his glasses coldly. 2 years ago, Miss Isabel volunteered for a national secret research project. Recently, the project made significant progress, and Isabel signed a contract to be the first participant in this global release, but this has nothing to do with taking her body. My mother stood up, her voice filled with emotion. "Even if she signed a contract, she's dead now. Are you going to use her body for experiments?" She confronted the man firmly. "This is inhumane and deeply disrespectful to the deceased. I won't allow you to treat my child this way." Despite her strength, I floated above, feeling a mix of pity and irony. It was the first time my mother had defended me like this, and even after my death, she wanted to protect me. "If you stop me, our company's lawyers will sue you," she threatened, pulling out her phone to call the funeral home. But before she could dial, a large hand seized her phone and I spoke. "I agree to it." My mother looked at my father in disbelief. "Isabel joined the project and donated her body," I confirmed. My father remained calm but distant, staring at my mother as if she were a stranger. Her disbelief turned to anger. "Why? Isabel is your daughter. How could you let them use her body for experiments? Even if Isabel didn't understand, how could you, her father, allow this?" My mother clenched her fists and pounded her chest, but I tried to shield my father from her blows. It was futile. His expression remained unchanged. As her father, I owe her so much. I tried to fulfill her few requests, he stated indifferently, pushing her away. "Can't you understand her?" he added before glancing at me and leaving my mother in tears. I had donated my body to be the first experiment in memory extraction. A day later, my memories would be broadcast globally as a scientific achievement. I accompanied my devastated mother back to the hospital, wondering how Caleb and Julia would react to the global release of my memories. As expected, their reactions were priceless. Upon hearing the news from my mother, Isabel, as usual, never gave people a moment's peace. If she felt unwell, she could have told us why she had to hold on and delay herself. My mother sat by the hospital bed, exhausted with red-rimmed eyes, but full of blame. Exactly, even in death, she doesn't let people rest, always doing such disgusting things. Caleb whispered, "Was that memory extraction experiment really real? I've never heard of anything like that. Why does Dad always involve Isabel in dangerous things?" Julia finally spoke, her voice full of worry and a hint of anxiety, but her eyes show a trace of unease. The hospital room was silent, everyone lost in their thoughts like the calm before a storm. Sensing the tension, my mother moved to the sofa in the waiting area and turned on the TV. Immediately, a report about the upcoming memory extraction research conference scheduled for the next day appeared. Social media was also abuzz with news of this research breakthrough. If perfected and widely adopted, memory extraction technology would be a monumental achievement for the world and human society. Countless media outlets and streaming services announced live coverage of the conference. The next day, everyone eagerly awaited this historic moment. A day passed swiftly. Inside the VIP hospital room, the atmosphere was icy. It was time for the conference to start, but no one turned on the TV. "Mom, Dad, don't you want to see Isabel's memories before she passed?" Julia asked cautiously, her anxiety rising. "What's there to see? Who would want to know her memories? As if she's not afraid. Her memories might involve others." My father scoffed, though he looked uneasy. The three of us exchanged words, but my father silently held the remote, watching each second tick by. Even after the conference had begun, he remained silent, his chest heaving as if summoning his resolve. Finally, he lifted his hand and turned on the TV. The room fell silent once more, with only the voices from the screen filling the space. The memory extraction machine and its implications were being explained. I scanned everyone's faces. Julia bit her lip, looking pale. Caleb leaned against the wall, disgusted with sweat on his forehead, and my father watched the TV intently while my mother's eyes were wide with concern. People worldwide gathered around screens to witness history. Online discussions buzzed as they awaited the success of my memory extraction. The machine was ready, but since the research wasn't complete, only my most profound memories could be extracted. As soon as the visuals of my memories appeared on the big screen, everyone gasped in awe, and the researchers celebrated their success. People were eager to see the deepest memories of the first experimental subject. The screen then displayed a harmonious family scene, my first memory, a gift to Caleb and Julia. From my perspective, our family was setting up a picnic spot. My father and I were pitching a tent while 9-year-old Julia pestered 13-year-old Caleb to play. My father allowed me to handle the tent alone, asking Caleb and me to explore the woods. Julia, in her pink princess dress, trailed behind, pushing all the tent duties onto me. I never understood why, but despite taking care of her the most, she was the most antagonistic towards me. She always seemed to cry and act out to steal our father's or Caleb's attention whenever they spent time with me. Whenever they left me to attend to her, she'd look back with a smug expression that said, "See, Dad and Caleb care about me the most." Back then, I thought she was just a clueless little sister, so I always gave in to her. Facing Julia's whining, my father refused her request without hesitation. He gently pushed her away, holding her arm with a soft but serious tone. We divided the work at home before we came. Isabel already finished her part. "And you promised Dad to help Big Brother and me pitch the tent. If you want to play, call Caleb over and help clean up first. Isabel is also Mom and Dad's child, not your maid." My father said this as he pulled me aside and called Caleb loudly to help clean up. Caleb was reluctant while Julia threw a tantrum and suddenly burst into tears. "Dad, you're a meanie. You only care about Isabel. I don't like you anymore." Julia stomped her foot and ran into the woods, feeling wronged. Seeing Julia run off, Caleb immediately chased after her without a word. I squatted back down and smiled at my father. "Dad, you should go too. I can pitch the tent myself. You should hurry after them. The woods are big, and if they get lost, it won't be good." I seemed used to this, and though I felt uncomfortable inside, I didn't think much of it. "Let's go together," my mother suggested. "She's busy in the car and might take a while. I don't trust leaving you here alone." My father sighed helplessly, pulled me up, and wouldn't let me refuse as he led me towards where Julia had run. We searched for a while but saw no signs of them, gazing into the endless woods. Panic set in. "Why haven't we found them yet, Dad? Do you think Julia's in trouble?" My heart pounded wildly, and the ominous feeling grew stronger the deeper we went into the woods. "No, Julia is just a little kid. She can't run that fast," my father comforted me softly, though his faster pace and tightened grip showed his worry. We searched more and found Caleb sitting under a tree, wiping his tears. When he saw us, his eyes lit up, and he ran toward us while crying. "Dad, why did you take so long? Where's Julia?" Seeing no one with him, my father immediately grabbed Caleb's arm, which made Caleb cry even harder. "I lost track of her. I couldn't find her and was planning to come get you, but I got lost." Dad, should we split up to look for her? I asked anxiously. My father didn't answer immediately, but I could tell he was more worried than I was. No, the woods are too vast, and we're on a mountain. There might be hidden pits. He handed me a reassuring look. You take Isabel back the way we came. I'll keep looking. Maybe Julia's just hiding somewhere. He continued searching while loudly calling Julia's name to ensure her safety. I had no choice but to take Caleb back, hoping our mother was already at the campsite. This is all your fault, Caleb blamed me, having wiped his tears. If you'd helped Julia pitch the tent, maybe she wouldn't have thrown a tantrum, and I wouldn't have gotten lost. Caleb always blamed everything on me. In the past, I might have argued with him, but now I lacked the energy. Possibly because I had ignored him. Caleb lost interest and followed me at a distance, occasionally glancing around. When we reached a nearly vertical slope, he called out excitedly, "Isabel, look! There's actually a grave here. Who would bury someone here?" Annoyed, I turned back and walked towards him, looking where he pointed and felt a sudden shock. To Caleb, it might have seemed interesting, but to me, I was terrified. What if Julia, out of curiosity, accidentally fell from a similar slope? The more I thought about it, the more scared I became. Finally, I decided to return to the woods to help find Julia. Caleb, just follow this path straight ahead, my father instructed, making markers along the way. Follow them, and you'll definitely reach the campsite. I pointed in front of us, questioning where he was going. He grabbed my arm in panic as I turned to leave. My sense of direction is better than yours. I want to help, Dad. No way. Caleb clung to my arm. You can't go. Take me back first. What if I get lost again? This is all your fault. Caleb started acting irrationally, but I was too exhausted to argue. During our struggle, Caleb suddenly let go, causing me to lose balance. Slipping on the mud, I fell backward, tumbling down the nearly vertical slope. My ankle struck a tombstone hard, and it felt like my entire body was crushed. I lay on the ground, immobile, the pain so intense I couldn't scream. It felt like something was covering my eyes, making everything blurry. Through the haze, I saw Caleb standing on the hill, looking genuinely panicked, but his expression was unclear. In my final moments before losing consciousness, I saw him turn and sprint away like a snapped bowstring, and everything went pitch black. My mother, with bloodshot eyes, looked at Caleb, whose face was filled with guilt and panic. She was shocked. Didn't you tell me Isabel went to find your dad? Do you know how worried I was? Why did you lie to me and your dad? You made Isabel fall down there. Why didn't you tell us the truth when you came back? Why did you lie to us? My mother's slap landed hard on Caleb's face. I didn't know how long they had searched for me, but I understood why Caleb had lied to hide my fall. He was probably afraid of being scolded by our parents, so he fabricated a story. As they couldn't find me, he grew even more scared to tell the truth and continued the lie. "I didn't mean to, Caleb," he stammered. "I thought she was dead. I wanted to tell, but you called the cops without asking. I was scared the police would arrest me for killing someone." Caleb covered his face, looking aggrieved, but his tone abruptly shifted. "It's not entirely my fault. If she had agreed to take me back first, we wouldn't have been arguing. It's her own fault." His neck stiffened as he spoke with forced righteousness. My mother's eyes widened, seemingly surprised that Caleb was still avoiding responsibility. She trembled with anger and raised her hand to slap him again. But just as her hand rose, the dark TV screen flickered back to life. On the screen, I awoke from unconsciousness, slowly moving my body and calling for help loudly. When no one responded, the younger me tried to stand, enduring the pain in my ankle and thinking of ways to save myself. I found a sturdy stick and, gritting my teeth, used all my strength to grab a tree trunk and slowly climb up several times. I almost slipped and rolled back down due to exhaustion or a misstep. The scene was nerve-wracking. Finally, when my last bit of strength was gone, I made it up and walked along the path in my memory to the campsite, only to find it completely deserted. I stood there in a daze for a long time, and the tears I had held back finally fell, but I clung to a sliver of hope, believing that my parents and brother would never leave me behind. I began hobbling down the mountain the way we had come. Sure enough, I saw them about to drive away where they had parked the car. Excited, I wanted to rush toward them, but my injured ankle wouldn't allow it. The distance between us was too great, so I shouted loudly, hoping they would hear. Dad, Mom, I'm here. I'm here. You left me behind. Don't leave me. I walked as fast as I could through the pain and cried out, but it seemed like they didn't hear. The car started moving, getting farther and farther away, and I panicked. I was terrified they might actually leave me. The fear of abandonment haunted me. I refused to stop chasing that car, hoping someone would notice me, until Julia glanced back in my direction. Hope surged within me as I raised my hand and waved desperately. But the moment she saw me, she went back inside, shut the window, and the car kept driving without stopping. I stood there, powerless, watching it fade into the distance until it disappeared from view. This was the first time they truly abandoned me, leaving me alone for 6 long years. The hospital room was oppressively silent. My mother stared blankly at the TV, unresponsive. My memories replayed the moment I was lured into a car after being left behind. I was tied up and locked in a dark room, surviving on scraps and dirty water, treated like merchandise being transported to another city, hundreds of kilometers away, all while I was just a 9-year-old child meant to build self-confidence and dignity. I was confined like livestock, waiting to be sold without any respect. I can't remember how I endured those darkest days. My imagination kept me going. I held on to the belief that my parents would rescue me, trusting they'd never give up on me. This faith carried me through 6 grueling years. But what caused my suffering? Who was the source of my misery? I never understood why my brother and sister would do this to me. Why? Why? My mother, Julia, pressed her lips tightly together. Her voice trembled, her face pale. She probably never imagined that the secret she had kept for 8 years would be revealed publicly like this. I admitted I saw someone waving at me, but I didn't realize it was Isabel. Julia's eyes filled with tears as they streaked down the bedsheets. She seemed so innocent. Dad, Mom, believe me, if I had known it was Isabel, I would have told you to stop the car. She's been so good to me. How could I leave her behind? As Julia spoke, she subtly tugged at Caleb's sleeve. Caleb seemed momentarily surprised, but quickly responded, "Yes, Mom, Julia might be a bit headstrong, but she wouldn't do something like this. Maybe we should stop watching." As Caleb spoke, he reached for the remote on the table, but before he could grab it, their father, who had stood up, slowly kicked him to the ground. Ignoring everyone's shocked gasps, Dad sat back down, glanced at the disheveled Caleb with a blank expression, and calmly said, "Keep watching." Dad turned his attention back to the TV, which was already transitioning to the next scene. I groggily opened my eyes and found myself in an abandoned warehouse. I tried to stand but realized my limbs were bound. Nearby, I heard sporadic sobbing. Following the sound, I saw a frightened 16-year-old Julia in a school uniform, crying in the corner. At that moment, I couldn't grasp what had happened. I only remembered that after leaving school, someone covered my head with a bag, and the next thing I recall was waking up here. "Julia? Julia!" I stumbled toward her, wanting to ask what happened. Julia was crying so hard she couldn't speak. She signaled with her chin, and I looked in that direction, seeing Caleb unconscious and battered. Judging by his condition, he must have been severely assaulted. This memory likely stemmed from when Caleb and a few others were kidnapped. Dad watched this scene on TV with a frown, seemingly piecing together the memory. Caleb naturally recalled the kidnapping from a year ago, a cold smile forming on his face. She really has the nerve to use this as her most vivid memory, he thought, finally feeling triumphant. He looked disdainful as I floated in the air with an indifferent expression, a cold smile lingering on my lips. Suddenly, I felt a wave of anticipation, curious about Caleb's reaction upon uncovering the truth. After all, this was the second gift I had prepared for them. "Dad, maybe we shouldn't watch this." Julia's voice trembled and sounded anxious from her hospital bed, something I hadn't initially noticed. "Dad, I don't want to watch anymore. I don't want to remember the kidnapping. Dad, I'm scared." Seeing the fear in Julia's eyes, Caleb felt a pang of pity, pulling her into his arms and promptly saying, "Dad, if you're angry, take it out on me. Can't you see how scared Julia is? What more is there to see? Isn't it just as Julia said? The selfish jerk ran off to save himself, leaving us behind and getting what he deserved. She even admitted it herself. It's all Caleb's fault." Caleb's words were interrupted by Julia's voice emanating from the TV. This idiot got involved with those guys messing with a woman who had a man. He deserved the beating, but why drag me into this? I didn't make him go and be a backup. I was supposed to go to the KTV with friends tonight, but thanks to him... Julia snarled at the unconscious Caleb with red eyes, devoid of any sibling affection, only anger and blame on her face. In the hospital room, Caleb, who had absorbed every word, looked utterly shocked. Instinctively, he pushed Julia away, unable to believe such cruel words had come from his beloved sister. He probably couldn't comprehend that he mattered less to her than a night out with friends. Seeing his expression, Julia panicked, grabbing his sleeve and hurriedly saying, "It's not like that. I was just so scared at the time, so I complained. Don't be mad at me." Caleb said nothing. Normally, he would have forgiven Julia instantly, but his current demeanor showed he was distancing himself from her. Floating above and observing them, I suddenly laughed, feeling a surge of satisfaction seeing the once close siblings now estranged. Caleb's gaze returned to the TV. "All right, there's no point in discussing it now," he said. I interrupted his rant, frowning at the thugs in the distance who were drinking and gambling. Their rough appearance was intimidating. I slowly approached Caleb, assessing his current condition. As I drew nearer, I finally saw the man who was usually so arrogant and overbearing. Now, his face was bloodied, likely from being struck on the head with a stick. His bleeding wound had already scabbed over, his face was bruised and swollen, and numerous footprints were on his body. I still didn't know exactly what Caleb had done or why these men had tied us up, but I couldn't help but assume the worst. We need to find a way out. I moved my wrists, wincing from the pain caused by the rope's friction. Under Julia's shocked gaze, I skillfully freed my hands from the loosely tied ropes. The rough fibers had left several bloody marks on my hands, but I remained silent. I quietly untied the ropes around my feet and carefully looked around. Eventually, I spotted a narrow dog hole near some clutter in the corner. "I'll crawl through that hole and find someone to call the police. You stay here and stay quiet," I whispered to Julia as I glanced at the group of thugs. Julia suddenly panicked upon seeing my intention to leave. "No way, you can't go alone, take me with you, don't leave me here alone." She became so agitated that I quickly covered her mouth, fearing her loud voice would attract the thugs. "What about Caleb?" "Leave him here alone," I frowned, deliberately mentioning Caleb. I had hoped Julia would reconsider because Caleb cared for her, but she didn't. "Who cares about him?" Julia shoved my hand away, glaring at Caleb with disgust. "If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be stuck here. This place is filthy. My hands got cut from the ropes. Who knows if they'll get infected? He messed with the wrong people and got beaten up. He dragged me into this. Why should I suffer for him?" I wasn't really shocked by her words. Deep down, I knew Julia was the type to sacrifice others to save herself. "Well then, you can untie me and stay here. I'll go find someone to call the police." "No way," Julia replied immediately. I had a gut feeling that if I let her go, she'd leave without looking back, indifferent to Caleb and my life. "Stay put. I'll be back soon," I said, not wasting any more time arguing with her. Taking advantage of the thug's distraction, I crawled out through the dog hole. Once outside, I looked around to orient myself, but before I could get far, I heard Julia's voice shouting from the warehouse. "Someone's escaping! Quick, go catch them!" At that moment, I felt frozen in place, a chill running through me, my mind blank. I couldn't comprehend why Julia did that, but one word echoed in my mind: run. The thugs swiftly pursued me. I fled aimlessly through the woods, tripping countless times, running until exhaustion set in, but too terrified to stop. They soon caught up and surrounded me, beating and kicking me. That moment transported me back 6 years to the countless dark times I had been beaten. At some point, someone tore my school uniform, exposing my skin to the air, and I felt my heart shatter. Don't let her looks deceive you. This girl has strength. Someone touched me and my mind went blank. I tried to stand and run but was dragged back by my hair. Want to help avenge the boss? They grinned wickedly at me, their leering expressions making me nauseous, and I trembled. Caleb messed with the boss's girl, so let's mess with his sister. I don't know who started it, but they tore off my uniform, I thought, as they dragged me by my hair to a patch of grass. I was terrified, screaming and pleading. But these beasts didn't see me as human. They covered my mouth, grabbed my throat, and violently tore at me. By the time the sun set and the moon rose, my tears had dried, my voice gone, and they left me in the dirt like discarded trash. I don't know how long I lay there, but when I woke up, I had a high fever and was in the hospital. Some villagers found me and called the police. In the hospital room, Caleb, who had witnessed everything, sat with red eyes, turning away from Julia, his head down and motionless. The lies had been fully exposed. Julia's face was pale, but she still held onto a flicker of hope, tugging at Caleb's sleeve with a trembling voice. "No, listen to me. What more is there to explain? What other lies do you want to tell me?" Caleb shook her hand, grabbed her shoulders, and screamed, "Didn't you say Isabel escaped on her own? Why didn't you tell the truth? Do you think our lives are worthless? Only Julia's life is precious? What did I ever do to wrong you? I treated you so well. Isabel treated you so well. How could you do that? Why would you push her into the fire pit?" Julia laughed coldly. "Push her into the pit? Caleb, I'm just a bit selfish, but who's the real culprit behind Isabel's current state?" The truth hit hard as Julia revealed her true self. "Did I tell you to push Isabel down? Did I tell them to catch her? The person responsible for her condition is you. She's dead now. What's the use in pretending? Can she hear you?" Julia's mocking words stabbed at Caleb's heart. "You're calling her Isabel now, but how did you describe her to me behind her back? You called her filthy, said the scars on her body made you sick. Said she should have died back then? How dare you blame me for hurting her?" Caleb's eyes widened, as if struck by a thought or deeply hurt by Julia's words. He stood there trembling, then suddenly collapsed to his knees, breaking down and holding his head. Deep regret filled his eyes. "For the first time, I was wrong. I've wronged Isabel. I shouldn't have been so harsh. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have abandoned her, but I was so scared. I feared she'd come back and expose me. I'm her brother, but never acted like one. I brought her to this state and still said she deserved it. I wished she died outside. I deserve to die. I deserve it." He fell to the ground, crying his heart out, watching his self-repentant breakdown. I felt no sympathy as all the memories unfolded. They didn't know it yet, but they were being cursed online by netizens worldwide. My mother seemed unable to accept my suffering, covering her mouth and nearly fainting. "How did this happen? Why didn't she tell us? I'm her mom. Why did she keep it all to herself and not say a word?" "Because you never believed her. Julia is usually silent." Dad finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Your heart was always biased. Out of the three, Caleb and Julia were always your favorites, but there wasn't a single time you chose Isabel." Without hesitation, Dad nearly crushed the remote in his hand, veins bulging in his neck, shaking with a stoic face. "Even now, knowing her suffering, you still blame her. You don't deserve to be Isabel's mom, and neither do I deserve to be her dad." Dad shakily stood up from the sofa, almost falling multiple times. Watching him, I felt a painful ache in my heart, making it difficult to breathe. No. You are the best dad, the one who loves me the most." I tried to embrace him but couldn't reach him. His tears fell strangely. Although I couldn't catch them, they felt like they were burning my hands. He's definitely my dad. My capable dad. During my 6 lost years, when everyone gave up, he persisted. He went gray overnight, consumed by guilt for losing me despite work trips after finding me. He never missed a daily call. He was the only one in the family always supporting me, unconditionally believing in me. When I had PTSD after being violated, he stayed by my side for 24 hours, abandoning all work when Mom advised against reporting to protect Julia's reputation. Dad insisted, even threatening divorce to seek justice, just to give me my due, to ensure those who violated his daughter faced consequences. "Let's divorce." Mom looked shocked, not believing her ears. "I said, let's divorce," I added. Dad took a deep breath, pulling out divorce papers from his briefcase. "I don't want any assets. We'll divorce. I'll take Isabel's ashes and leave. I'm not a capable dad. I'll spend the rest of my days praying for Isabel, praying she has a happy, healthy next life, free from parents like us." He finished resolutely and left. Mom stood stunned until she saw Dad leave the ward without looking back, then collapsed. How did it come to this? Julia never expected this outcome, gritting her teeth with spite. "It's that horse's fault. Why didn't she die when they violated her? Why did she survive? Why do people even in death disgust? Julia's rant ended with a bottle hitting her head, causing her to fall off the bed. Her recently healed leg struck the floor hard, making her scream again. "Mom!" She stared wide-eyed at the mother who threw the bottle, terrified. Not just her, I thought. I never saw Mom like that. Why wasn't it you who died? Why Isabel? Why are you so selfish? Never letting Isabel have a moment of peace. Why did I even have you? Without you, just Isabel. Wouldn't our family be intact? Would your dad have mentioned divorce if it weren't for you? Mom was like a crazed person at that moment. She stood up and started hitting and kicking Julia. She grabbed Julia's neck tightly and said viciously, "Your dad was right. I'm not fit to be Isabel's mom, and you don't deserve to have a sister like Isabel. You ruined her. You ruined me. You ruined our family since I brought you into this world. Let me send you to apologize to Isabel now." "No!" Julia kicked her legs desperately, but she had just had surgery and wasn't recovered. Where would she find the strength? Her eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and tears kept streaming down her face. Shortly after, her eyes widened, and she stopped moving. Julia was dead, killed by her mother who had once adored her. Mom went mad. She couldn't accept that her favoritism had caused my death. She couldn't accept Dad leaving her, or that she had just killed her own daughter with her own hands. She was placed in a mental hospital where she rambled day and night. "Isabel, has anyone seen my daughter? I need to find my Isabel." "Mom was wrong. Will you forgive Mom? Don't leave Mom all alone." Caleb was sometimes lucid and sometimes confused. He couldn't accept that his family had fallen apart overnight. He drank all day and lived in a daze. Eventually, he was found naked, bruised, and frozen to death under a bridge. I thought I would feel avenged, thought I would vanish from this world after achieving my goal, or maybe be reincarnated, but I didn't. My soul floated beside Dad, watching him shave his head. Carrying my ashes, he bowed with every step as he climbed to the mountain temple. The abbot asked him what he sought. He said, "I just want to light a lamp for my daughter and spend the rest of my life praying for her happiness and peace in her next life." It felt like something was calling me. My consciousness began to blur. The moment I lost awareness, I seemed to see Dad smiling at me. "Daddy's Isabel, may your next life be peaceful, joyful, with a happy family, an always supportive mom, and a dad who loves you forever and ever."